What is going on, everyone? It's Rebecca with another video. In today's video, we have some pretty interesting news about MLB expansion. Once again, we've obviously heard this multiple times throughout all the offseason and stuff like that. But apparently, Salt Lake City is going to push for an MLB expansion team. They have a little bit of group now. They have the former owner of the Utah Jazz in the NBA that obviously play in Salt Lake City, that want an MLB franchise expansion team. So pretty interesting. We've seen a lot of other cities come into play, which we'll talk about in a minute. But let's go to the article that Jeff Passan has here. So pretty interesting overall. Pretty much talks about a lot of other, groups and stuff like, the Nashville group, the Portland group, and then the Las Vegas, question, especially with the A's franchise. They could be relocating to Las Vegas, and as well with the Tampa Bay Rays. So as we know, when we talk about expansion, Rob Manfred has said that he wants the A's and Rays situation to be figured out first. So let's go over the Oakland situation. You guys probably know the Oakland Coliseum's not really in the best bet. They're trying to get out of there. They're trying to go to Holloway Terminal in Oakland, and that's been taking since 2017. They started that, and nothing really has got done. So now they're looking towards Las Vegas. Obviously, they have their AAA team over there in Las Vegas in their ballpark, so looking kind of around there right now. So we still have to wait for that situation to get figured out. With the Rays situation, their lease is up on the Trop in 2027. So they have to get a new stadium in Tampa or St. Petersburg, or they might entirely move the franchise. So we'll see what happens with these two situations. These obviously have to get done before anything can happen with the expansion slots. So that's the first thing we have to figure out. I personally think the A's are a good likelihood to move to the Las Vegas area, just because the Holloway Terminal thing is taking a while, and the city of Oakland is not really helping them with it, to be honest, from all the reports I've heard. So I feel like that's more likely to happen for Oakland. But as well with the Rays, I figure they're going to stay in Tampa. I'm pretty sure, that they've got a lot of renderings going on that we've seen throughout the years. And, I think they'll be around in St. Pete probably. I don't know if they'll be in Tampa yet, just because it's, there's hard to find land around that area. But I do think the Rays will stay in that South Florida region. Who knows? They could entirely move the franchise. I would not be surprised. As well as Oakland, the MLB, I think, wants to go to Las Vegas, but maybe they don't think Oakland should go there. So I don't really know what those situations have in hold, but I'm going to assume that Oakland's going to go to Vegas and Tampa's going to stay in Tampa for this video, because that's personally what I think is going to happen. So as we know, Salt Lake already has a minor league team, which is the Salt Lake Bees for the Angels. And this is kind of their ballpark. We'll score right here. This is kind of a blurry image, but you can tell it's a really nice ballpark, and they have a lot of mountains out here. As you can see, this is a better picture. You can see obviously the mountains, beautiful view, and it's a lot like most minor league parks. They have kind of the berm out here where people can sit on. You can walk all the way around the stadium, get the batter's eye. Looks like a solid stadium overall. So I'd imagine, I don't know if this team would stay here. I don't know if they would move. But this is the Salt Lake Bees in Salt Lake City. So they already have a good team, 14,000 capacity for the stadium. And from what I know, they draw okayly. So that's something to keep in mind. And, with Salt Lake apparently having a big population boom, they're going up in population, could be really attractive for an MLB franchise. So we can go over some numbers right here. You can obviously see the average attendance last year in 2022 was about almost 6,000 fans, which is the 18th highest in minor league baseball, which is pretty good across all the teams, which there's like over, I think, 120 or something like that. So it's pretty good overall. And, it's kind of interesting to see what they're going to do. We've obviously, like the article says, the Jazz have, moved there for a reason. And it would be interesting to see who's kind of in the bid for the next MLB franchise spot. We obviously got Salt Lake now. We obviously got Las Vegas. We obviously got, Nashville, Portland, Charlotte, and other teams. Maybe even Montreal can get in the picture. So it would be interesting to see what team's actually going to get in the market for this. So these are the early renderings of their stadium right here that they have, come up with. And honestly, it looks okay. I don't think it looks too bad. I think the green's a little much for me, though. I think that they'll change that if, this was an actual thing. But yeah, the view looks nice with the mountains. I think that's a really cool touch. Also got these cool, sky thing, or there's a smoke detector things, whatever they're called. Someone will correct me in the comments. You also got that, and you got some nice buildings in the background. So overall, the stadium looks pretty cool. We have another image right here of what it actually would look like, and it honestly looks pretty cool. The overhang, I think, is pretty cool with all these domes we've been getting recently. I think that overhang looks pretty cool on all the stands, and honestly, it looks pretty cool overall. It's cool. They have this little lake right here. You can see there's obviously, you can see a street right here where my cursor is right here. Have a street. and they have the stadium right here. So it looks pretty cool overall. And they said it would be right here at the Rocky Mountain Power. So around this area right here is kind of where they said the stadium would be. So it would be interesting if, you know, they actually got something going here. It's kind of hard to see those like smoke detectors right here, but this is where that stadium would be if it was actually rendered, which would look cool, which we'd have this artificial like lake, I guess, some buildings over here, and the stadium would be right here. So it doesn't look too bad overall, and I think it'd be pretty interesting if they actually could pull it off. So I guess my personal thoughts on this whole situation is I think Salt Lake City would be a great team for, you know, the MLB to look at, or a great city for the MLB to look at, just because we don't have a lot of teams in the West like we've discussed multiple times before. We can go back on Google Maps right here, but we'll scroll all the way out, and you know, if you look at the West Coast, we have, you know, we have Seattle, obviously, we have Denver, we have, you know, Phoenix, and then pretty much California. So a bridge team right here I think would work for Salt Lake City, and then eventually if we got a Vegas team and then a Portland team, I think it would make sense to kind of bridge them so we don't have these long travel trips either. Across the league. So it would make a little bit more sense for the geography of the sport, and I think it would look pretty nice. Yeah, so do I think it will happen? I'm not really too sure, honestly. I think there's other cities that would, you know, be best for an expansion team. I think number one on the West Coast has got to be Las Vegas, just because, you know, it's the biggest city right now over there, and, you know, the population keeps growing and growing. It's a huge tourist spot, so you have all that factors in there. We've seen other sports leagues like the NHL obviously hop on in there. We have seen the Raiders and the NFL hop on in there. So with another expansion team, you know, could be pretty good for that Vegas area, and which I think would probably be the next expansion team if the A's don't move there. I think it'd be number one automatically. So if I were to predict this, we'll go back on Google Maps right here. If I would have predicted, say, Oakland and Howey Terminal works out and Tampa works out in Tampa or St. Petersburg, and both of them would get new stadiums, I do think Vegas would be the first expansion team. I think they'd be the 31st team right away. I don't know how the divisions would work for this, but I do think they'd be the 31st team right away, just because the other sports franchise has already gone there, and you know, it's a really nice city, and they could definitely build a stadium somewhere there, because there's a lot of land in Vegas where it's not used, and, you know, there's just desert there, so they could definitely build a stadium pretty close to the Strip, or maybe it could be outside the Strip, like the actual Las Vegas ballpark. So I do think they would be the 31st team, and I think they would want to go to the East, because you look at the last time they expanded, I mean, we had Arizona and Miami, so kind of opposite sides of each other. I feel like if you went over to the East Coast, I feel like Nashville has got to be on that list right there for the next franchise spot. A couple people have talked about Charlotte, but I'm not really sure if there's a stadium or even a group there in that stadium. So I feel like Nashville would be next up if we looked at, you know, East Coast and all that stuff. So I feel like they would have the next shot to have a team and make the league 32. I don't know how the divisions would work. They probably have to rework that or figure out a system for that one. And then if they ever wanted to get more expansion out here, it'd probably be for Portland or Salt Lake City. For the next team out in the West, you know, we would see what that would happen. And then maybe in the middle, you know, we got like Oklahoma City. You never know what that could happen. In the central of the United States. And you never know what happens in Montreal, or, you know, you look further for Canada, Vancouver maybe. You never know what could happen with all these other cities. But yeah, pretty solid list of expansion teams. It's obviously Salt Lake City, Las Vegas, Portland, Oregon, you know, Nashville, and Charlotte. So it would be interesting to see what teams would get what expansion, or what, you know, cities would move. We've obviously seen the Kansas City Royals get a new stadium, or trying to get a new stadium in downtown Kansas City. We've obviously seen the Rays threaten to leave the city. We've seen Milwaukee to threaten to leave their city as well. So a lot of things could happen moving forward throughout the years. I think the big takeaway is that they have an actual, you know, they have renderings for it, they have a location, and there's a group behind there. So I think that could put a lot of momentum for Salt Lake City as this group continues on. And, you know, it's obviously going to be a long time until we, you know, eventually even get to expansion. Like we said, we got to figure out the A's and the Rays situation for the league. But yeah, it depends on what would happen moving forward. But pretty interesting article overall. I recommend you guys read this one on ESPN by Jeff Passan, you know, one of the best, you know, guys in the space right now for all the news, and the most credible, obviously. So it'll be interesting to see if Salt Lake would actually get a team, or if the A's would move to Salt Lake or something like that. You know, it would be pretty interesting overall. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. MLB expansion is going to get even crazier as the years move on. Salt Lake City, a major player now in this discussion. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everyone.